Chris Herring, he's the beat writer for the New York Knicks with the Wall Street Journal with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. Chris, thanks for jumping on with us again. And you were at the NBA Summer League. Your eyes were all over the New York Knicks. So now we have a better idea of what to expect from Kristaps Porzingis. So, Chris, let me ask you, what should we expect from Kristaps Porzingis?
He's a good-looking player. I mean, it's obviously going to be a little bit of a work in progress, but I don't think it's not going to take every bit of 2 or 3 years for him to develop everything that he does now. He obviously can shoot right now. You got a bit of a taste of that. The last game he played, the 25-footer that he hit from straight away. You saw him make a nice pick-and-pop jumper from about 20 feet over Jahlil Okafor in the third game they played. You saw him be a weapon in the pick and roll and in the pick and pop situation, so I think he'll be able to do that.
Chris, what's the most exciting aspect of Kristaps Porzingis' game?
The best signs that he showed were on the defensive end. When you're 7 feet tall, it's difficult to learn how to play defense, and I don't think that he's going to have to be taught in every sense of the phrase in terms of how to be a defender. He can move his feet very, very well for someone that is if you want to call him 7'1" without shoes, 7'3" with shoes. He moves his feet very well laterally. He can stay in front of people. He's not just a pushover, despite the fact that he's only maybe 220, maybe 230 pounds at 7'1". He actually is, he has a little bit of a base there. He needs to get a lot stronger, obviously. You saw that when he tried to guard Julius Randle, when he tried to guard Jahlil Okafor briefly at times, guys that have 40 or 50 pounds on him. But he's not weak. And I think that, he can probably hold his own for a little bit in a couple minutes at a time at center. But I think he'll make for a decent power forward right off the bat. I think he'll be able to play at least some minutes, maybe 15 minutes a game as a rookie.
Chris Herring of the Wall Street Journal with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team, Knicks beat reporter. And, Chris, we've heard that he could be Kristaps Porzingis is a 5-year project, 4-year project. You're saying 2 to 3 years in your mind from what you've seen so far for this guy to fully develop?
Well, that's what the Knicks have said. And okay. I think that's probably realistic. I don't think that he'd have to play right away. If you do decide to give him decent minutes with some of your best players on the floor, I think that would probably help him progress too. He obviously needs to play, but I don't think that he needs to play 30 minutes right away or it's a problem. I think that he could probably progress by playing 15 or 20 a game. That's essentially what he played overseas as a 19-year-old anyway with Spain, 21 minutes a game. So, it'll be interesting to see how they handle it, but we'll have a better sense once preseason rolls around.
Chris, you're a New York guy through and through, and I understand this is way, way too early to come up with a final analyzation of Kristaps Porzingis. But when he was drafted, the Knicks fan overall had the feeling of, who the heck is this guy? What is your feeling as a Knicks fan and having that analyst background as well, now that you've seen Kristaps play? Is this still what the hell did the Knicks do, or do you feel better about the pick after watching this guy play?
He's very talented for somebody his size. Obviously, we've only seen him against Summer League competition, but if he pans out and is anywhere near the sort of potential that he has, he could be a really, really special player. And I think people started to get a sense of that during Summer League, and I think some of the concerns started to kind of disappear a little bit.
Chris Herring of the Wall Street Journal, at Herring WSJ on Twitter. Chris, you were with this Knicks team throughout NBA Summer League in Vegas. Who else do we need to know? Who else got your attention on this Knicks roster?
Well, obviously, Jaren Grant was the other number one pick that they had. They traded Tim Hardaway to get him, and I think on a lot of levels, I kept saying this beforehand, people might be impressed with him before they get impressed with Porzingis because the learning curve is not going to be as steep. Jaren Grant is already 22 years old. He played 4 years at Notre Dame. Porzingis is 19. And, people talk about 2 to 3 years with him. And with Grant, he might be more of a plug-and-play sort of point guard because of the experience that he had playing at a big school at Notre Dame. And the fact that he, fits in more with today's NBA point guard, which the Knicks really haven't had one of his caliber and of his pedigree, in quite a while. Jaren Grant, one of the best players in the country, an All-American, loves to run the pick and roll, is deadly when he runs the pick and roll, is deadly when he gets out in the transition, is big, is 6'5", can defend his own position decently, is not the greatest shooter, but can get to the basket at will, is a very, very good passer, and is the kind of quarterback you want running your offense, has a high IQ on the court. So, I think the fact that they have him at the helm is a good look, and I think the fact that they're able to trade Tim Hardaway Jr. for a player that does more than Tim. Tim was relatively one-dimensional. Jaren Grant does a lot of things. Even in the summer league, was averaging something like 5 assists and 4 rebounds a game. He kind of fills a stat sheet, blocked a few shots, and Tim Hardaway Jr. is not that kind of player. So he looked great. Maurice Ndour, kind of an agile forward, looks pretty good and is going to force the Knicks to make a difficult decision in terms of the roster. But all in all, I thought it was a good summer league. You had a couple guys that didn't look all that impressive, like Clancy Early and Langston Galloway. But, I think some of the guys that were there for the first time did look very good.
Chris, the San Antonio Spurs win the Summer League. Their head coach is Becky Hammon. When you watch the Spurs in the Summer League and you watch Becky Hammon with the players, can you envision a female coach in the NBA at the NBA level in the near future?
Well, it'll sound strange maybe a little bit, but before seeing her with the Summer League team, I think my mind had already gone there. The Spurs, more than any team in the NBA, seem really not to care what people think and what the establishment thinks. And the fact that they hired her in the first place, not only hired her, but hired her immediately out of retirement from the WNBA, I think shows that they weren't afraid of the perception or how that would be received. Obviously, that was as an assistant coach, but, the Spurs are the same team that, they became the first team in NBA history to win a title without playing anyone 30 minutes a game. They're the same team that has won before, playing what a lot of people deem to be a boring style, which obviously I don't agree with. The same team that has done things for years where they kind of shield their tactics from the media on some level and use a lot of internal data to make their decisions in terms of how they're going to rest players, and Greg Popovich deciding that he's going to sit people out before a nationally televised game against Miami and getting fined $250,000 for it as an organization, after it being a rematch of the finals from the previous year. So I think the Spurs have shown us time and again that they really don't care about the way things are perceived. They obviously kind of tanked right before they got Tim Duncan, and then that paid off for them in a tremendous way. So they don't care what people think, and I think it's great that with Becky Hammon that they're treating it the same way. And it was great to see them there in such big numbers as an organization. They had about 10 or 12 people sitting directly behind the bench that all worked for the Spurs during Summer League. They played a game against the Knicks, and that stood out. And so I think it's great. She comes off as very, very bright. She comes off as very humble and someone that's proud to have the opportunity. But, would it shock me if she became a head coach someday and if the Spurs was the team that gave her that chance? Not at all. And Summer League obviously didn't change anything about that either.
Chris Herring of the Wall Street Journal, Knicks beat writer. Follow him on Twitter at HerringWSJ. That's HERRING. Chris, welcome back to the Empire State, man. We enjoyed your coverage throughout the Summer League, and let's hope that the Knicks continue to improve and go in the right direction, man.
Thank you for having me, as always. I appreciate it.